Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Way Through. Of course, I'm your host, Bonnie Worth. This show is all about exploring the mind body spirit connection, excuse me, through the lens of mediumship, metaphysics, and conscious co creation as a means of navigating all of our life's challenges. I'm here to help you as I help me and help everyone to unravel inherited conditioning and discover our relationship with how we're living our life from what keeps us stuck in the past, repeating patterns and cycles, to understanding the gift of our sensitivity, a vibration, and aligning with our truest self. This show is all about empowerment so that we can break free of the limiting beliefs and unlock more of the infinite potentials that lie in each of us so that we can, of course, live more purposefully and more authentically in every aspect of our life. Now, today's show is about addressing a very hot topic, so to speak, in the world at large. I mean, this is about our resilience. And when our resilience to, the challenges that we have in our life is a very complex interplay. And this is, we can look at this in terms of duality, and duality is a part of our humanity. This complexity is about the forces, the contracting forces that exist within us, and of course, in the world around us. Within us, there are the complexities of light and dark, of joy and sorrow, of strength and vulnerability. And in the world around us, we have day and night, and up and down, creation and destruction. When we take a look at this from what we could say a spiritual vantage point, this is really what our soul is seeking. The soul is looking for the richness of experiences, the richness of the contrast that occurs through the duality of our experiences. It's really what, when we look at this, the soul looking to have this spiritual life experience, it's what supports the evolution of our being. Now, from our human vantage point, this doesn't necessarily mean that any of it's easy. We, in fact, don't enjoy it as much as what the soul enjoys the evolution. But it is in recognizing and embracing the duality of our life experiences, as well as duality of the aspects of our own being, that we can really achieve a greater sense of balance, develop, I would say, greater compassion and empathy for ourselves, for each others, and ultimately cultivate a more profound appreciation for the intricate nature of life, the intricate nature of every single living being that is here on this planet. And it's a part, of course, of what the Empower channel is all about. It's about moving humanity forward. And here in this is to help understand that what supports our evolution at the soul can also be the greatest challenge for us as human beings. But it's through the challenge that we rise. It's through the challenge that we move forward in really advance or become more conscious about how our impact that we have on the world and our impact that we have even in terms of our own life experience. So, our capacity as human beings to uphold a level of resilience, I mean, is unbelievable. Like, let's just consider all that we endure as human beings. We have, our own personal losses and emotional struggles. There are societal challenges. There's global crises that are taking place. That, we look at everything in totality, it really speaks volumes to our innate strength, our adaptability. Some might even say the resilience of our own spirit. But when we look at this innate resilience that we have, this capacity that's a part of our human conditioning, this resilience is, yes, it allows us to rise above each setback. It's where we can transform our adversity into growth. It's how we maintain hope amidst all of the uncertainty. It really reflects our ability to find meaning in hardship. It's how we connect with each others in shared experiences. And it's through our shared experiences, especially during times of crises or traumas, where we come together as families, as communities, as nations to, in helping and supporting and in states of compassion. So there's such a there's such an importance for it, but it's in terms of how the gifts or the blessings that it brings forward, but also looking at it, it's how we emerge from those difficulties. It becomes an important part of the equation, and we can emerge with a newfound appreciation, as I said, greater states of compassion. We could have newfound perspectives in terms of life and each other that maybe we hadn't had previously. But our innate resilience, this means that we have the capacity to survive anything. And that's pretty miraculous when you consider, the complexity of who we are as human beings and the conditioning that we carry. But this innate resilience, this is, as I said, this is our capacity to survive. It does not necessarily mean it's our capacity to thrive. And there is an absolute, very distinct difference between the two. And I'm hoping that, from this conversation here today, I'm going to take you from a state of simply surviving life to begin to take steps forward so that you can begin to nurture your capacity to thrive regardless of what has happened in the past or even your current situation or circumstances. Now, resilience is essential. It's an essential facet of not only our human experience, but it's an essential facet of our human existence. It is what governs how we navigate the world around us, how we, as I said, our challenges, our adversity, and even our traumas. Now, our inherent human resilience, it's natural. It's a capacity for us to be able to adapt, to bounce back, to recover. We find ways of moving through some of the most adverse of conditions where we have like it's like a miracle that we even survived. But these are ways that in which we can move forward that manifest resilience in almost a more even more challenging way for us. In fact, there are two contrasting forms of resilience. This innate resilience that we have, which is our human nature, or there is what I'm going to talk about here today on the show, which is our authentic resilience. And there's a really big difference between the two. Our innate resilience, what I've been kind of sharing up until now, this very part of our human condition, it's a part of our nature. And this form of resilience, as I said, this is linked more towards being able to survive anything that comes up in our life. But it's also what is linked to our emotional suppression and using almost a form of denial as a way of coping, that our innate resilience actually serves as a coping mechanism. It's a part of our human condition. It's a part of our egoic makeup. And it's a part of us that's in place simply so that we can survive what are some of the most impossible or sometimes most adverse and trying things that can play up for us in our own experiences, or again, what we share globally or collectively. So it's there to serve us. It's there to help us to cope and to overcome those instances. But we rely on the coping mechanism, and through the reliance of it, we get into, as I said, suppression of the how we feel, the impact that traumas and adversity have had on us, how we lose our sense of self, and we get into denial, the denying that it had any impact, the denial that we might even need help or support in order to go through. So it serves the greater good. It serves our greater good to be able to move through these challenges with this innate ability that rises up inside of each of us within the nature of our humanity. But it also works very adversely against us as well, because it causes that to become something that is almost denied, shamed, or we try to work really hard to forget and overcome. Now, when it comes to suppression of anything, it will only be suppressed before so long. What is suppressed inside of us, what we hold on to, gets held inside of the cells of our body. It gets the energy of everything, begins to affect our overall well-being. Anything that is suppressed leads to a depression of energy inside of us. And through that depression of energy causes disintegration. Now, we can look at that in terms of our spiritual self, That again, if we are not in a state of expansion, our spirit is in suppression or is in a depressed state, it's going to create greater suffering. Now, of course, that can manifest in various different forms. That can manifest and show up in terms of our relationships with other people, in our careers, in our the health of our physical body, the manifestations of other diseases and illnesses, etc. Because what has been suppressed, if it is not expressed in some way, will lead to further disintegration. And it really becomes almost like you've heard me speak on one of the previous shows where I talked about the suffering spirit. That suffering spirit syndrome is what happens with this capacity of our innate resilience if we allow for it to become our way of living or our coping mechanism. Whereas authentic resilience is something completely different. There's an absolute dichotomy between the two. It's like the other side of the coin, so to speak. This is where authentic resilience is where we embrace the complexity of our emotional experiences. This is it's the difference between our ability to move past what has happened, no longer entangled within the narratives and storylines or in the pain and suffering of past experiences. And that allows us to live a life that we've been praying for, or repeating patterns and cycles and feeling stuck and feeling hopeless. It's real, understanding this dichotomy is such an important part for us in terms of reclamation of our joy, our happiness, and our overall well being. So when we look at the nature of our innate resilience, this again, as I shared earlier, is our state of surviving. Our innate resilience is the internal strength that we humans possess to endure difficulty and trauma. It's a trait that is actually seen as a bedrock of psychological health. Is that to me, that is astounding. It's what enables us to, as I said, to bounce back from the setbacks, to face our adversities. But the manifestations that come from this state of resilience are not always straightforward. This is where, again, I said, we go into suppression and denial as the coping mechanism, but it really becomes the the negligence of our own pain and suffering that we get into the habits or into the ways of living our life. You maybe have done it. I know I certainly have. Or maybe people who have said these very things. It's like the fake it till you make it. Suck it up, buttercup. Man up, everything's fine. It's this form of pushing our way through any obstacle. Now, pushing your way through or finding your way through, again, completely different. And that's why I'm so glad you're tuning into today's show, because and every single show, if you haven't, if this is your first time tuning in, thank you for being here. And please go back and listen to the previous episodes of this show, because it really sets a foundation for every single one of our conversations. And of course, if you're tuning in again, this is why, thank you for being here, because this is about helping you to find your way through, not push your way through. And that's the difference here. When we look at innate resilience, it's a form of pushing our way through. Now, we might do that consciously, we might do it unconsciously, but it's how we really avoid the reality of how we feel. It is a mechanism that provides temporary relief, not belief, temporary relief, long-term beliefs, but temporary relief. It's how we, can get up every morning when we are met with challenges. It's how we function in our daily lives. It's the scope of autopilot that we can so naturally fall into, those tendencies for autopilot. I remember, so much of my own life, because of all of the traumas and adversities that I had endured and what I was struggling with, that I was functioning on autopilot. I was just simply surviving my life. And so this is where, we're not contending with what is distressing inside of us. We are not admitting to ourselves. We're not acknowledging how painful our emotions are, or how painful or impactful our experiences have been in terms of our own psychological health, our spiritual health, our physical health. It really is what leads us to ignore our feelings. And I know I certainly ignored how I felt. I was in complete denial of how I felt, complete denial of the impact that my traumas had had on me, how I was struggling, the internal struggle that I was going through, the devastation, the challenge, those feelings of suicide and just not wanting, losing all hope for life. And it leads many people, including myself, as I said, it has, to really ignore those feelings. And when it's the belief that if we ignore it long enough, it's going to disappear. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Whatever we suppress is going to look to be expressed in some way. Now, although this is an adaptive kind of way of living and surviving, it's short term because it does create other roadblocks. What interferes with our genuine not only healing, but our overall health, mentally, emotionally, physically, as well as spiritually. And it's like we have no reprieve from the emotional turmoil. Ultimately, it's what actually hinders our ability to be resilient. Because we are disconnected. We are so disconnected with our true self, with our emotions, that we actually create an illusion of strength, and it's very superficial. This suppressed feelings, they don't vanish. They, as I said, they're going to manifest in many forms. This is forms of anxiety, depression, physical ailments. And when we lack to acknowledge what's really going on at our core, it really affects our ability to engage with life in a very authentic way, to be able to have authentic relationships, to be authentic, expressing ourselves authentically or showing up in the world in our true self. This is also, as remember I said, this is how we're like, suck it up, buttercup. We just need to get over it, shake it off, dust yourself off, get up again. This is where we pretend the pain away. And pretending our pain away does not serve because it at all. In fact, it's actually what can lead to not only further disconnection, which is disconnection from who we truly are, disconnection from the true self, the higher self, but it also leads to further isolation. And when you've been hurt or wounded or traumatized in any way, isolation, we isolate ourselves. We pull back because it was too painful. We contract our energy. We almost move into the corner and almost to hide away or crawl under the bed and pull the covers up over our head. We tend to isolate when we're in pain. But that isolation, that is we're, in the state of this innate resilience, it becomes even more challenging. It further leads to, so much of our inability to heal. It keeps us in our suffering. I honestly believe that when we consider the pandemic as an example, that the isolating, not only did we have to isolate due to health reasons and governance in those ways, but for so many people, it was challenging because there was nothing to distract them from the unresolved emotions. There was nothing to distract from the inner turmoil that was there. They had already isolated or pulled back because of the pains of their past and their childhood experiences and the traumas and the things that had happened in their lives. They had already isolated, self-isolated, and now add in the isolation that was placed on them. Really, it's like as the whole world quieted down, the interactions, with others were really reduced. So many people found themselves confronting feelings that they hadn't previously processed. Everything that maybe they had suppressed before started to surface and started to rise, right? When we look at distractions, daily life distracts us from our pain and suffering. We have sometimes we have no, choice. We have no choice but to show up at work and, to get the kids out the door, etc. I know that was certainly, for myself, when I said I was living on autopilot, that was it. I had no choice. I had 3 little babies at home. I needed to get up. I needed to get life needed to distract me from what was going on so that I could, function and take care of the things I would needed to take care of and fulfill my responsibilities. And so that really, again, it was a matter of shoving down, pushing away, and denying that there was any challenge going on inside of me whatsoever. But so here we look at, when we lose, like we did in the pandemic, we're no longer distracted in our daily life. We're no longer going to work. We're no longer having the social gatherings. We're no longer, able to follow through with the various commitments we have, or we lose our social support systems. I mean, that happened. We're really left alone. We're left alone with ourselves. We're left alone with our thoughts and our emotions. And so, I truly believe that's why there's been such an increase in people seeking help and support, and for people looking to heal and to address and come, and to come into a place of greater empowerment within their lives. And I think it's beautiful in terms of what it's opened up to in terms of the healing for people. It just wasn't so fun in the process, and I don't ever want to deny the challenge of what that is, and the hardships of what occurs, not only psychologically, but the impact that it has in terms of what manifests in terms of an individual's day-to-day life, because I've lived it, I've learned from it, thank God. And now looking at, of course, being here to help you to find your way through. So I never ever, want to get into a place where perhaps, people, you're feeling like, I don't get it, I haven't lived it. I certainly have, and I'm speaking to you really from experience. And so I think this is from my experience where I can really observe, take on that lens of the observer, and to really see the impact of what happened for so many people during the pandemic, and why there was such a rise in terms of maybe the mental illness, or things that have taken place. I mean, but the good news is that there are so many support systems. There's people like me and individuals everywhere who are helping to support people in their recoveries from, and I call it the recovery of past. I mean, it's really, we all have a past and we all have a story. And so, being able to seek the help and support is a big piece of it. But when we look at, and this is another common thing, being able to seek the support, to ask for the help. You see, the isolation, I know even for me that I not only was I in denial of the fact that I was severely depressed, I was also denied myself from getting any help as well. I never told anyone that I was suffering. This isolation, I kept it all to myself. And that's really what innate resilience does. It leads us to feel like we can't communicate, that if we share that we need help, that are needing help, that vulnerability that it takes to do that, that we are somehow weak and we should be stronger. Remember, the illusion of strength becomes an overriding factor here. So for many people, when we're operating just in the innate state of our resilience, we're not able to communicate authentically with other people, in terms of what our needs are, of course, how we feel. And this inability to speak our truth, it is such a common thing for so many people, and especially so many individuals that come forward to coach with me. This is a part of things that we work through, the inability to speak the truth about how we feel, the truth of our perspectives and points of views, and that silence, the silence of it is deafening. And that silence is because there's so many fears: the fear of judgment, the fear of rejection, the fear of vulnerability, that it creates such a facade, that illusion of strength, that we need to stay composed, that it actually hides the inner turmoil emotionally that we're going through. For so many people, that being able to struggle for the voice, to voice their real feelings, to express and share their story or their experiences, that really, it helps, also increases the disconnection from other people, the disconnection from their own self, but also the disconnection from the higher self, or the true self, or we can even say in terms of a higher power. And so this disconnection, I mean, it's a spiral. I mean, it just becomes the isolation into loneliness. We're working with unresolved emotions begin to fester beneath the surface, and it becomes very disingenuous in our very existence. It really, we require connection, we require relationship, we need to be able to express our feelings. And when we are living in a state of innate resilience, we're not able to articulate that, and we can't, it prevents us, it's what prevents many people from being able to seek the help and receiving the support that they need. And when we conceal our struggles, we really miss out on our own healing. And I know for me that my pain was like solitary. I was conditioned to suffer in silence. And it really created a perpetual cycle of that isolation, of the emotional distress. And, we only need to look at the generations before us to see how it plays out based on our inherited conditioning that we are conditioned to avoid. And at least it was, and when I look at it, the matrilineal wounding, and I look at the ancestral wounding in terms of my bloodline, that we were conditioned to you basically, get over it. But the avoidance, of course, it's just that, the emotional reactivity, it just, everything just increases the suffering. Whereas in contrast, authentic resilience is our capacity to embrace the pain for our growth and for our evolution. And this is really where our state of thriving comes from. Innate resilience is our state of surviving. Authentic resilience is our state of thriving. And now is when we are in willingness, a willingness to confront our pain, to acknowledge how we feel, no matter how uncomfortable it may make us. Now, this is not something that we genuinely or very can do by ourselves. It can be very difficult to go through a healing journey to be able to nurture a state of authentic resilience without help and support along the way. But remember, our innate resilience says, I can do this. I've got it. I'm strong. I'll get over it. I don't need anyone, because we begin to isolate and pull back. But when we are willing, when we're willing to open up and willing to be vulnerable and willing to ask for help, no matter how uncomfortable that we may feel and how maybe we have been conditioned otherwise, it really becomes the path to our healing. And it's this approach that recognizes that our pain is an integral part of our human experience, that our pain, regardless of what happened, that our feelings matter. And instead of running away from how we feel and running away from the sadness and the sorrow and the grief, running away from the resentment and the anger and the judgments, running away from the deep seated beliefs that we might have about ourselves, rather than running away and fleeing it, we get to lean into it. The benefit of leaning into how we feel. This is where we are allowing ourselves the privilege not only to feel how we need to feel, but an opportunity to process the pain. It's how we actually create space for healing. It's where we create the space for understanding, the space for self forgiveness, self compassion, and ultimately greater growth. Now, engaging in the pain, that's not pretty. And none of us likes to go there, because again, that's a part of that human condition that says, "Oh, I don't want to go there. I'm not going to stay there. I'm never going to get out of it." And that's actually not true. That in our willingness to be present, that we can recognize not only our emotions as being valid, but the fact that we deserve attention, that we are worthy of how we feel and worthy of finding our way through to healing as well. This is not this approach not only nurtures our psychological well-being and true psychological well-being. That's why I said, when I said earlier, how I kind of giggled, where the basis, we look at the basis of innate resilience, is seen as a foundation for psychological health. And I guess in some degree, of course it is, but from my personal experience, that being able to move into the the acknowledgement, the presence, to give way for the truth of how we feel, the truth of what happened, being able to speak the stories, to be able to tell someone is so therapeutic, but to be able to be with it, to feel it, to process it, and energetically work with it, to release it is the very thing that brings about not only authentic resilience, but it is true psychological well-being. And it really, oh my gosh, it is such an important piece. And we look at cultivating that deeper sense of self-worth. When we are willing to witness our struggle, to witness our pain, to choose to be present with it, we are affirming our worthiness. We are acknowledging that what happened was significant, that it mattered, and that we matter. And it allows us to, to engage in a process that not only nurtures, our humanity, but it nurtures the soul. It's the very thing that heals the suffering spirit. It's what promotes that sense of wholeness, but it really is what transcends that mere survival that we have as human beings. When we can give ourselves permission and we can be with through the process of being who we are, the process of being with how we feel, when we can do that, not only again does it open up to greater empathy and compassion, but we find understanding for our experiences. And it's in finding understanding both for oneself, maybe for other people, the understanding where true forgiveness lies. I'm going to do another show all about forgiveness because I think that is one of the things that is so vastly misunderstood in terms of the impact of needing to forgive other people who have hurt us. I've never been able to understand that. I'm going to bring in another way of looking at that. Again, I always the complexities and diversities of journeys and healing paths. For me, forgiveness was not something that was very easily was able to do until I understood something deeper, and through the understanding and to working from the scope of an energetic approach on it, how I was able to really find the true essence of forgiveness for life and for my past and for the things that took place. But as I said, that's going to be a completely different show, and here I am going on a tangent and losing going down a rabbit hole in another direction. So I'm pulling myself back out now. So we want to go back here. So this authentic resilience, what I said, it builds the empathy, it builds this understanding, it ultimately allows for greater self-forgiveness, the true letting go of the past, the truly letting go in order to live and let there be light. And it's where we really can become more equipped in our own self, more equipped not just within this innate resilience, but equipped in ways in which to nurture our emotional intelligence, to find the balance, to be able to navigate this the times of vulnerability, but more important, that what fosters connection and fosters community, and really takes us from being in a solitary way of processing pain or moving us forward on our healing journey to more of a collective journey towards healing. Now we all have a responsibility to take care of what's ours, and to say that which we do under our human condition. It's so easy to blame other people for what happens in our lives, to blame the government, to blame the economy, to blame the past, and to blame the boss, whatever it is. Where that's a natural egoic tendency that we have. But where we look at authentic resilience, it's no longer about blaming. It's no longer, there's understanding there. And that's the very thing, as we take care of and being responsible for what's ours, what's our contribution, the contribution of our pain into the world, as well as our contribution of our joy into the world. When we start becoming very conscious of what we are expressing, whether that be through our words or actions, or even through the energy as well, we begin to understand that this is how we cultivate a collective healing, a collective journey towards healing, towards that greater understanding, right? So it's a whole spectrum. It truly is a whole spectrum. But being able to really honor the story, to honor our emotions, to be with how we feel, to process the pain in a healthy way. And that's again in a way that, I mean, I've got some ways here that you can incorporate in terms of some self-reflective practices for yourself. But for the bigger things, I really, encourage you to reach out to me, reach out to someone who can help and support you on your journey, because being able to touch those vulnerable spaces inside, to be able to find the understanding can, is such an important piece of the puzzle, so to speak, but also it's not something we can do alone. And I know certainly wasn't for me. If it wasn't for the shamans and the healers and the light bringers and the helpers that allowed, that sat with me and that held me and created space in order for me to process the things that I needed to work through. Had it not been for them, it would not have I would not have been able to get to the core of so many of the things that were holding me back. So I really encourage you to find the support, to reach out, to seek the help, and to express that, where again, the isolation says, no, don't ask for help, the fear of vulnerability. And I want to invite you to say, no, it's through our shared experiences and it's through the willingness to be vulnerable, to ask for help, that really is where, the answer, the journey towards healing not only begins to a step forward, but it's actually how healing is able to happen. So, and again, I'm coming at you from having been there, done that. So again, to understand that our authentic resilience, this is the expression ultimately of our worthiness. It's what leads us forward. It leads us forward as humanity. It leads us forward as individuals into something more fulfilling, a more wholesome existence. And in essence, it's the way that we honor both our humanity and our divinity, and how it leads us to honor the humanity and divinity of other people all over as well. And so we begin to see the light, we begin to see the creator, we begin to see a collective or a unity or a oneness that exists in all of us as a result. So it really is fundamental, so to speak, in being able to, to look at nurturing what is more of an authentic state of resilience in order to really move beyond maybe the suffering, the past, or the realities, and to move forward, and to kind of release the illusion of the inner strength and actually find the absolute inner strength that exists inside. All right. So before I go, I want to just give you some recommendations, some things. Of course, if you're not currently working with someone, if you're looking to work with someone, by all means, please reach out and get in touch, because I have all kinds of ways in which I can help and support you. But if you're not, I want to give you some things here, some practices that you can begin to work with, so that you can begin to this journey on your own. There's layers of things. There are pieces to the puzzle that can be addressed individually, and then there's other things that we need our hearts held. And so, as we start to move through some of those, the more vulnerable, the more delicate layers of our pain and suffering. So here again, I really invite you, first off, what I call embodied reflection. Embodied reflection says, we're really taking an opportunity to reflect on a past experience. Now, don't do all of your experiences at once, because that could be really overwhelming. Just one thing at a time, one step at a time. This is really what you're going through. But just look at an experience that you've had that really kind of has shaped your emotional landscape. What has shaped you? What has led you to believe maybe you aren't worthy? What happened in your past that you just can't shake, that becomes the thing that you're just constantly thinking about. Every time you're looking to move forward, you've got that one thing. Now, you can have more than one thing, but you have that one thing that just recalls constantly. Just bring that to mind, and then as take a deep breath and just be very mindful. Close your eyes and just, where is that held in your body? Where is it held in your body? You might notice you have an ache or pain in your back, or maybe it's your knee or your hip, but just become aware of where it exists inside of your body and notice the sensations of it. Just pay attention to any physical sensations associated with that memory you're having. And then just through your own ability, just, what texture is that feeling? What is the feeling? Can you identify the feeling? And if that feeling had a texture, what would that texture be? Is it something that's heavy or tight or fluid? Does it have a temperature, which means does it feel really warm? Does it feel cold? Is it kind of neutral? So just notice the sensations that are in your body and that are associated when you have that memory. When you have that thought, where is it showing up in your body? And then once you have, it's like once you've tuned into the sensations of it, um, consider what it's led you to believe about yourself. So you want to explore your beliefs here. So you're finding again, you're coming into a past experience, you're pulling up a memory, you're going to notice the sensations in your body, and then you're going to explore the beliefs. And that's going to happen as you tune into the sensations, these experiences. What have they led you to believe of yourself? What narrative has that that thing that happened in the past, what narrative have you created because of it? And really pay attention, especially regarding your self-worth here. Because the key to everything, and I mean everything, I can't stress that enough, is your capacities or your embodiment of your own self-worth. So if something is not working in your life, something's not manifesting, something's not, it's all about worthiness. It's all about worthiness. So ask yourself, what did this cause me to believe about myself? When did I decide I wasn't worthy? And then just give yourself to just be with that. Just feel the emotions of it. Just be without judgment of it. Just allow it to just be present within you. Okay? So that's the first step. The next I want you just to go ahead and invite you to call upon your higher power. Now, again, that may be different for everyone. There's no, this is based on what you personally believe. And so just go ahead. This might be light, this might be love, this might be the creator, this might be in context or in a context of God or source, or maybe it is your angels and your guides, whatever your belief is. Maybe it's the universe, or as my friend always says, maybe it's Kermit the Frog. Just doesn't matter. Your higher power is your higher power. And if you don't believe in a higher power, believe in your own power. Okay. So here again, just once you've identified the memory, once you've kind of been with the feelings and the sensations of it, you want to call upon what is that source of strength inside of you, whatever it means for you. And again, it's all about what's right for you. And then you just set the intention for the healing. You just simply say, in this moment, I am releasing all of this pain, all of the limiting beliefs, all of the sensations. I'm asking for it to be uplifted and transformed. That's it. And affirm it's done. Ask for whatever energy you want. Ask for it to be healed with unconditional love. Let unconditional love, maybe feel the unconditional love of your angels enveloping you, whatever it is for you. Just ask to please, for the healing so that you may know true peace. And then envision it completely complete. You might even feel the release of that intensity of the pain because you've created some spaciousness. You've created some opportunity, some softening from that intensity of the pain. And then once you're done, move into the integration part of it. The integration is just really, grab a journal, just grab a journal and start to write some down. Like, what insights do you now have? What new beliefs do you want to adapt? How is it that you want to nurture your worthiness? What is it that you need in order to move forward? Just look at journaling, find out what those ideas that come to mind as a result of this. And then go and live your life. Go and live your life, which means go live your life in terms of the practices. Engage in mindful ways of living your life, and practices that encourage well-being, that for ongoing self-reflection. And you want to continually work to maintain a connection to your body, to your emotions. So go live life, but live life with awareness. Live life from a state of worthiness, and then be able to, this is really how this process for healing can really, really take form for you. And again, stay committed to it. Stay committed to it. Find one memory, work with it, process it, go and live your life, and then come back and do it again. Don't try to do it all at once, because all at once is way too overwhelming. And remember, if as you get into some of the sticky areas, those more painful memories that come up, do not hesitate to reach out, get in touch for some help and support, because help and support is truly truly what is going to allow for the grace and ease of healing beyond what maybe you can do individually for yourself. All right. So again, oh my gosh, it's been so great so hanging out with you here today. And of course, please get in touch, as I said, if you need any help and support. I hope that something that I've shared here on today's show will help you to find your way through whatever is happening in your life with a little bit more ease and grace. And of course, if you found this show inspiring and helpful in any way, please, please, please be sure to like and comment. And of course, do share this show with anyone you feel who may benefit. Thank you, thank you, thank you for tuning in, for being here with me. And until next time, be well and shine true. Bye bye for now, sweet friends.